Think of the last time you walked through a forest. The silence probably felt peaceful, serene. But what if that silence was actually a deafening roar that you just couldn't hear? That's the reality a new AI has just uncovered. It turns out that the entire plant kingdom is engaged in a constant, complex conversation using a language of ultrasonic clicks and chemical signals. We are only now beginning to listen, and the first translated messages are not what we expected. To put it mildly, the silent world of plants is a lot more active and a lot more terrified than we ever imagined. The ultrasonic scream. For most of human history, the world of plants has been a silent one. We've seen them as beautiful, essential, but ultimately passive forms of life, responding to the world through slow, imperceptible growth. You see, we believed their lives were lived on a timescale so different from our own that they were essentially unaware. But what if there was a whole dimension to their existence we were simply deaf to? What many people overlooked is that our senses are incredibly limited. This is the story of how artificial intelligence gave us the ears to hear a conversation that has been happening all around us for millions of years. And the first words we heard were screams. The breakthrough came from a team of researchers who decided to listen to plants in a way no one ever had before. They placed non-invasive microphones capable of detecting sounds far beyond the range of human hearing, just inches away from tomato and tobacco plants. These weren't ordinary microphones. They were designed to capture the high-frequency world of ultrasound, the same acoustic realm used by bats and dolphins. For days, they recorded the plants in a controlled, soundproofed chamber, gathering terabytes of data. For a while, there was nothing but silence. But then, they put the plants under stress. One group of plants was deprived of water. Another group had their stems carefully snipped. And that's when the silence was shattered. The plants began to talk. They emitted a series of short, high-frequency popping sounds, like a tiny rapid-fire clicking. These sounds were completely inaudible to a human, occurring in a range between 40 and 80 kilohertz. To put that in perspective, the highest frequency a young person can hear is around 20 kilohertz. The plants were communicating in a way we were biologically incapable of perceiving. The researchers found that a stressed plant could emit between 30 and 50 of these ultrasonic clicks every hour, while a healthy, content plant was almost completely silent. But here is where it gets truly amazing. The sounds weren't just random noise. This is where the AI came in. The team developed a machine learning algorithm, a type of artificial intelligence, to analyze the mountains of acoustic data. They trained the AI to distinguish between the clicks of a thirsty plant and the clicks of a cut plant. The results were stunning. With about 84% accuracy, the AI could tell you exactly what kind of stress a plant was experiencing just by listening to it. A thirsty tomato plant had a different accent, a measurably different acoustic signature than a thirsty tobacco plant. A cut plant sounded different from a dehydrated one. It wasn't just a scream, it was a highly specific, detailed cry for help. This discovery is a complete game changer. It means that plants are not silent sufferers. They have a specific, measurable, and now a translatable way of announcing their distress to the world around them. What's often overlooked is the sheer potential of this. Imagine a farmer with sensors in their fields that can hear a crop's thirst long before the first leaf wilts, allowing for perfectly timed irrigation that could save billions of gallons of water. The implications for agriculture are staggering, but the thing nobody tells you is that distress calls are just one side of the coin. It begs a much bigger, more unsettling question. If plants are broadcasting their state to the world, who or what has been listening all this time? The sounds of stress were just the beginning. What the AI uncovered next was far more organized. A conspiracy of roots. For decades, we've known about a phenomenon scientists call the Wood Wide Web. It's a vast, underground network of fungi called mycorrhizal networks that connect the root systems of trees and plants, sometimes for miles. The common understanding was that this network was a mostly passive, symbiotic system for sharing nutrients. A large, healthy tree might share carbon with smaller, shaded saplings, acting as a mother tree. It was a peaceful, cooperative vision of the forest. But what if that was a naive and dangerously incomplete picture? The new AI models, armed with the ability to decode plant sounds, were about to reveal a much darker side to this silent underground kingdom. Scientists began to combine the new acoustic data with our existing knowledge of the Wood Wide Web. They placed their ultrasonic sensors on multiple trees in a forest, all connected by the same fungal network. Then, they introduced a threat. They released a swarm of aphids onto the leaves of a single targeted tree. As expected, the tree began its defense, producing bitter-tasting chemicals to deter the insects. But what happened next was shocking. The AI registered a specific frantic burst of ultrasonic clicks from the attacked tree, a clear alarm call, but this sound didn't just radiate through the air. Incredibly, the AI detected that same acoustic signature, that same aphid alarm, being transmitted through the root system and across the fungal network to other trees, some of them hundreds of feet away. Even before a single aphid reached them, the neighboring trees, having heard the warning, began to preemptively release their own defense chemicals. This wasn't a slow, passive transfer of information. It was a rapid, coordinated, and strategic defense system. The forest wasn't just a collection of individual trees. It was a single, interconnected superorganism capable of communicating threats in real time. But the AI revealed something even more unsettling. The communication wasn't always cooperative. The thing is, this network can also be used for warfare. The AI helped researchers analyze the signals of competing tree species, like a black walnut tree and a nearby maple. What they found wasn't a conversation, but an act of sabotage. The black walnut tree would release specific chemical toxins into the soil through its roots, a phenomenon known as allelopathy. The AI correlated this chemical attack with a distinct low-frequency acoustic signal, a kind of war drum being broadcast through the network. This signal wasn't a warning. It was a declaration of dominance, a message meant to weaken and suppress its rivals to hoard more sunlight and water. Plants weren't just sharing resources. They were actively competing, strategizing, and fighting for survival in a silent, slow-motion war that has been raging for eons. This completely upends our romantic view of nature. We're not looking at a peaceful commune. We're looking at a complex, brutal society with alliances, rivalries, and organized defense. It's a world of information exchange happening on a scale that is hard to even comprehend, all powered by a network that makes our own internet look primitive. This discovery reveals a form of distributed intelligence, a forest mind that is aware of its surroundings and can react with a chilling level of sophistication. But if they can warn each other about insects, what are they saying about the biggest threat of all? A memory in the leaves. For as long as we've existed, we have been the greatest single force of change in the plant world. We have cleared forests, plowed fields, and shaped landscapes to our will. We have always assumed we were doing this to an unfeeling, unaware kingdom. But after discovering that plants can communicate specific threats like insects and drought, scientists asked the next logical and terrifying question: do they know about us? Can they distinguish between a friend and a foe? And I was about to provide the answer, and it confirmed that not only do they know we are here, but they are also talking about us. And they remember what we do. To test this, researchers designed a brilliant and slightly unnerving experiment. They used a combination of the ultrasonic microphones and another technology, plant electrophysiology. Believe it or not, by attaching sensitive electrodes to the leaves of a plant, you can measure its internal electrical signals, much like an EKG for a heart or an EEG for a brain. These signals represent the plant's real-time reaction to its environment. They then introduced two different people to a group of plants in a lab. One person, the nurturer, would consistently water the plants. The other person, the assaulter, would regularly snip a leaf with a pair of scissors. What the AI found was nothing short of mind-blowing. At first, the plants reacted with a general stress signal to both individuals, but after just a few days, a pattern emerged. When the nurturer entered the room, the plants remained electrically calm and acoustically silent. They recognized this person as a non-threat. But the moment the assaulter walked in, even before they touched a single plant, the entire room erupted. The plant's internal electrical signals spiked wildly, and the ultrasonic microphones picked up a massive synchronized burst of the specific "I'm being cut" distress signal. They remembered. They had associated the specific vibrations of that person's footsteps, their unique scent, their very presence, with a threat, and they were screaming a warning to each other. To put it mildly, this changes everything. It suggests a form of learning and memory in organisms that have no brain, no central nervous system. The AI was able to identify what researchers are calling a human signature. It can now predict with terrifying accuracy whether a plant is reacting to a harmless presence or a perceived threat. The data shows that plants react differently to the sound of a gentle sprinkler system versus the roar of a lawnmower. The lawnmower elicits a panicked, widespread acoustic alarm that spreads from blade of grass to blade of grass just ahead of the machine. They are, in a very real sense, screaming ahead of their own demise. This is not some philosophical concept. It is measurable, data-driven proof that the plant world is aware of our actions on an individual level. The garden you so carefully tend might recognize you as a friend. But the forest slated for clear-cutting is broadcasting a terror signal, a message of a coming apocalypse that we are only now, thanks to AI, beginning to understand. The implications are profound. We are not moving through a passive world. We are moving through a world that is watching, listening, and remembering. We are moving through a world that is watching, listening, and remembering. We thought we were just hearing a scream, but what if we've intercepted a call to arms? The counteroffensive. The revelation that plants can identify and remember us as individuals was a chilling landmark in human understanding, but it was built on a flawed assumption that their communication was simply a passive cry, a scream into the void. But what if the scream isn't just a symptom of their pain? What if it's a signal? What if the vast, interconnected consciousness of the plant world isn't just suffering, but strategizing? Some researchers are now feeding the AI models even more complex data, pushing into the fringe territory of scientific speculation. The theories they're developing are, to put it mildly, the stuff of nightmares. They suggest that for years we haven't just been observed, we've been actively fought in a silent biological war we didn't even know was happening. The first wild theory emerged when scientists tasked the AI with cross-referencing global acoustic data with atmospheric chemistry. They discovered that the synchronized distress signals from plants weren't just cries, they were commands. In response to rising global temperatures and increased carbon dioxide, the AI detected that entire biomes, like the boreal forests of the north, were coordinating the release of specific volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. These weren't the normal chemicals that create the pleasant smell of pine. These were complex aerosols that the AI model predicted had a specific purpose: to increase cloud condensation. The trees were trying to make it rain. They were attempting to geoengineer the planet's weather patterns, creating more cloud cover to block the sun and fight off the droughts we created. It's a desperate planetary-scale attempt to seize control of the climate. But it gets far more personal. The AI also began analyzing the chemical makeup of pollen, correlating it with data on human health. It flagged a disturbing trend. In areas with high levels of pollution and deforestation, areas of high plant stress, the local plants were producing pollen with subtly altered proteins. These proteins are hyperallergenic to humans. The terrifying theory is that this is not an accident. It is a coordinated, low-level biological counterattack. Unable to fight us with tooth and claw, they are using the only weapon they have: chemistry. They are filling the air with an irritant designed to target the species causing the problem. The mysterious modern explosion of seasonal allergies and respiratory issues might not be a simple medical anomaly. It could be a targeted assault from a global intelligence that has had enough. If that isn't unsettling enough, the second theory goes deeper into the very soil beneath our feet. We know the Wood Wide Web connects plants, but the AI is suggesting it's also a weapon delivery system. The model began decoding signals that appeared to be a form of recruitment. In the Amazon, where vast tracts of ancient rainforest are being clear-cut for agriculture, the AI detected the remaining trees broadcasting a unique acoustic frequency into the soil. What followed was a massive localized bloom of a specific pathogenic fungus, a fungus that is devastating to the non-native soy crops being planted, but harmless to the native trees. The implication is staggering. The plants are using the fungal network to cultivate and deploy biological weapons. They are directing the forest's own immune system to attack the invaders, turning the soil itself into a minefield for our agriculture. This could explain the mysterious, catastrophic failures of so many agricultural projects in cleared rainforests. It was blamed on poor soil quality, but the truth might be that the soil is actively hostile, taking commands from the memory of the forest it once supported. The plants are, in essence, salting the earth against their enemies. The AI suggests this isn't limited to fungi. Certain plants seem to be farming specific soil bacteria, nurturing those that are toxic to rival flora, and promoting those that help their own kind. They are microbiologists engaged in a silent underground war of germs that we have been completely oblivious to. But the final theory is by far the most profound and the most terrifying. It redefines not just plants, but the very nature of life and evolution itself. A team of geneticists and AI programmers began feeding the system plant DNA sequences along with the acoustic signals. They were looking for a link between communication and evolution. The AI delivered a bombshell. It found evidence that the plant network is not just sharing information about the present, it's sharing blueprints for the future. Through the fungal network and allied viruses, plants are engaging in massive horizontal gene transfer. They are sharing snippets of genetic code. A plant in one part of the world that develops a resistance to a new herbicide can, in theory, share that genetic resistance with plants thousands of miles away. They are, in effect, crowdsourcing their own evolution. The network acts as a massive, distributed biological computer, constantly running simulations and sharing solutions to the problems we create. This is why new superweeds are emerging with herbicide resistance far faster than traditional evolutionary models can explain. They aren't just adapting individually, they are learning, sharing, and evolving as a single global entity. And the AI's projections for where this is heading are chilling. It predicts the emergence of plant species that are not just resistant, but actively hostile. Plants that can more effectively poison water sources, that can destabilize soil to trigger landslides in logged areas, that can produce neurotoxins to deter any and all animal life. We have been playing a checkers game of agriculture and industry, while the planet itself has been playing a three-dimensional chess game of genetics and chemistry. The language the AI decoded wasn't just a scream, it was the sound of an ancient intelligence waking up and rewriting its own code for a war of survival. We thought we were shaping the world, but we may have just given it the perfect motivation to shape us right back. The planet's fever. For anyone following this, it is easy to get caught up in the drama of a single plant, a single forest. But what if this communication wasn't just local? What if the network wasn't just a forest, but the entire planet? This is where the research takes a turn from the merely shocking to the truly cosmic. Some scientists armed with these powerful new AI tools are now proposing the most mind-bending theory of all, that the Earth's entire plant biosphere is acting as a single, global superorganism, and it is sending us a warning that is terrifying in its scale and clarity. The theory began when researchers started feeding the AI not just local acoustic and chemical data, but massive planetary-scale datasets from NASA satellites. These satellites monitor what's called the Normalized Difference Vegetation Index, or NDVI, which is essentially a measure of global plant health. They can see, in real time, the stress on the Amazon rainforest from drought, the browning of the Siberian taiga from heat waves, and the impact of pollution on the forests of Europe. When they asked the AI to look for correlations between these macro-level events and the new micro-level acoustic data from sensors placed around the world, they found a signal, and it was deafening. What the AI revealed were synchronized, continent-spanning bursts of ultrasonic distress calls that correlated perfectly with major negative climate events. When a massive heat dome settled over North America, a coordinated high-frequency scream rippled through the continent's plant life. From the forests of Canada down to the grasslands of Mexico, when huge swaths of the Amazon were being burned, the AI didn't just see the destruction. It translated a synchronized acoustic lament that was broadcast by the surrounding, surviving jungle. These weren't isolated events. This was the planet's vegetation, the very lungs of the Earth, reacting as one. This leads to a chilling hypothesis. The thing is, plants, through their collective interconnected network, may have a far more sensitive and holistic understanding of the planet's health than we do. They are the planet. Their roots are woven into its skin. Their leaves breathe its air. They are the first to feel the fever of a warming climate. the first to taste the poison of acid rain, the first to cry out from the thirst of a global drought. For years, we have debated the Gaia hypothesis, the idea that the Earth itself is a self-regulating living organism. What if this plant communication network is the nervous system of Gaia? What if we are not just looking at environmental data, but listening to the voice of a living planet telling us that it is in profound pain? This forces us to confront a humbling and terrifying possibility. We thought we were the sole intelligence on this planet, shaping it to our will, but perhaps we've just been the noisy, oblivious architects of a planetary crisis, all while the world's true, silent majority has been screaming a warning we were never meant to hear. Are we missing the most important message in human history? A message that isn't for us, but about us? It's a message that simply says, "You are harming me." AI has translated the language of plants, and their message is a global scream of distress. We now know they are aware, they remember, and they are broadcasting a warning about the world we are creating. If we can now hear the planet crying out, do we have the right to remain deaf? Like and subscribe for more.